Maxine, your spiritual astrologer, and welcome back to the podcast where I teach you how to use astrology, learn astrology in a more empowering and soul-centered way. And in today's episode, I'm going to actually be recording this as well if you're listening over on the podcast, so I'll put that in the show notes. But I'm really excited to share today's episode because you're going to learn the 5 key tips that I wish I knew when I started out learning astrology. And not even just starting out, really, whether you classify yourself as more of a beginner or you're more intermediate, further along in your journey, there's so much that I wish I could go back and tell my younger self in the journey to becoming an astrologer. So wherever you're at, I think you'll really get a lot out of this. I'm excited to also, if you have any tips and you want to share them in the comments, let me know. Or if you're listening, let me know which one really resonates with you, which one you needed to hear. But again, I do have 5 tips for you. Pieces of advice really when you are on your journey to learning astrology. So I'll share those with you one by one, and I think they keep getting better. I like to think that. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, saving the best for last. And I also have a bonus tip for you, which is kind of related to this, but also just something I get asked a lot about, especially in my programs or over on Instagram. And it was something that came up recently. So I feel like sharing. I think you need to hear it too if you're watching this. So, all right, before I get into things too, just so you know at the start, if you want to learn more with me, if you want to learn more astrology, deepen your learning, feel free to check out MaxineLuthia.com or go to the show notes. You can book a reading there as well if you'd like to. You can sign up for Spiritual Astrology School, or if you don't know what that is, my 4-month-long comprehensive program to deepen your astrology learning and really feel confident reading charts in a soul-centered way. You can check out more about that too. Lots of testimonials and sign up for the waitlist. So yeah, so much more I could share. I do have a free resource too for you if you're starting out learning astrology. I have flashcards. I have lots of things. So, but yeah, let's get into it. So tip number 1 to learn astrology. Think of astrology as a language. Astrology is a language of energy. It's a language of light. And so when you are learning astrology, there's this tendency, I noticed, to learn in a backwards kind of way. And so a big part of why I love teaching astrology, and actually I am a teacher, that's where I began even before. I was a school teacher before becoming a full-time professional astrologer. And yeah, that's another story. Let me know if you want to hear that one. But learning astrology, and from the understanding that it is this language, that you can't expect yourself to read a textbook before you know and have memorized the alphabet, right? First you learn the letters, you have to memorize the planets, the symbols of what are those symbols that you're looking at in a birth chart? Understanding and breaking those down. So knowing all the planets, the signs, knowing the houses, where they are, familiarizing yourself with that, even knowing the elements. All of that is so important to first have that base understanding, have the letters of the alphabet, the words, and then you start stringing them together and you make phrases and then sentences, more complex sentences. You weave in what does this planet in this sign mean in this house with this aspect in this special configuration, bringing in the transits, the progressions, all of that fun stuff. So there really is a progression that you need to learn in to feel that you can finally blend it all together. So if you're feeling stuck on that, I know it's so tempting to want to all at once just know astrology or be able to dive into deeper topics, but really what I see with my students is the more you can know where you're at in that learning spectrum and allow yourself to have really strong foundations and build from there, the easier it will get. And seeing astrology like a language also helps to understand that there are many different dialects. People are going to learn in different ways. You might be more interested in a certain aspect of astrology. And again, it's like maybe, I use whole sign sign. Maybe you use Placidus, and you can still have respect for another astrologer, whether or not, and learn from them, even if they kind of speak a different language and have different tools. So that is number one. Number two kind of feeds off of what I mentioned there about there being different astrologies, so different languages of astrology. And so number two tip to learn astrology is be discerning in learning astrology. So first of all, the most obvious one, I mean, I don't even have to tell you this if you've been on your journey for a while. When you go on the internet and you search, even if you read some reputable books about astrology, I'll get people messaging me being afraid that they read something like when I recently got over on Instagram with someone asking about, does Saturn in the 5th house mean that you eat your babies? No, it does not. But there's weird things that you can find on the internet. If you look for them, if you look there, you can find that. But when you allow yourself to be intentional with knowing that astrology is meant to be a tool, and just how you can use, you can use a tool in a helpful or harmful way. It's the same with astrology. And so it's really important that you understand, number one, not all astrology that you find on the internet is going to be in integrity with you living your best life, meaning that not all astrology is really true astrology to me personally. And I think that's really a shame, because some of it really can be scary and can be very negative. And to me, it's, what is the purpose? Why are you learning astrology? And for me, it's really helped me in so many ways to build more confidence, to feel more sure of my gifts, to be able to know where my challenges are, my lessons, understanding that there's a larger purpose to all of this, and being able to help others on their journey to that spiritual evolution of the soul. Your birth chart is so powerful. It's a map to your soul, and your transits are guiding you in that. And so you can use astrology and bring out the shadows, or you can bring out the strengths. So letting yourself, as you learn, be mindful of, okay, is this helping me? Is this helping me in my journey? Because ultimately, to me, astrology is really helpful, but I also am very mindful of what astrology I absorb. So you have to go into that, read or listen to, TikToks or Instagram or on YouTube. Be very mindful of the energy. And this is something that you have to cultivate your intuition to be able to really pick up on this. But even if you just get bad vibes from someone who claims to be an astrologer, or something just makes you feel lower in your sovereignty or vibration, it's so important to remember that the purpose of astrology is to help you. And if something isn't helping you with that, of course, shining light on your shadows, but doing so in a way that is empowering, that gives you the keys. I've even had people, last thing I'll say here is I've had people come to me for readings that say they had a bad astrology reading where someone told them that they were doomed in love, or that it just wasn't a lifetime for whatever that was that they wanted. And that's not true astrology. Oftentimes, unfortunately, there are people who will kind of prey on people and make it seem that they know more than you do. But really, astrology, a good reading, good learning about astrology, it'll make you feel empowered. It'll make you sense that you recognize yourself in the words that are being spoken, and you can communicate and say, okay, I don't know if that's quite right, or, it's more of a conversation rather than feeling like the astrologer knows more than you do. Because yes, they might know more astrology, of course, but astrology is a language. And when I read a chart, for example, I feel like I'm a translator for you. I'm sharing something with you, and it usually vibrates at a soul level. That's how you know it's true. Okay. All right. So be discerning in what you consume. Be mindful of the energy of the person, the book, the video, whatever it is. And is it helpful? Is it helping you? Is it making you feel empowered or disempowered? Okay. So number 3, the third tip for learning astrology. This one's so basic, but I never hear anyone talk about this. So keep an astrology notebook. Keep an astrology notebook. Honestly, when I go back, I've kept astrology notebooks. I'm a Gemini rising. I love taking all the notes. And I have my astrology notebooks from when I first started reading. They're actually in this closet over here. When I first started reading about astrology, learning about astrology, and all of that. And it's so beautiful to see my journey, to see where I was taking notes on things that now to me seem so basic. But even so, just seeing that progression and seeing how far you've come, because astrology is a language, so it is a journey. And so allowing yourself to reflect back on that later is so beautiful to see how far you've come, how much you've learned, how much wisdom you've gained. And also, of course, to keep track of everything because there is a lot. So I like to also differentiate too, like there's note-taking to really just process things. And then there's notes that you actually want to use in reference, like as a reference guide. So differentiating that and knowing that it's okay if you never look back at that notebook until 5 years from now and then see, oh my gosh, you've learned so much. So that's super important, even for your own confidence and seeing, oh, maybe you know more than you think. Because what I tend to note with students is they don't give themselves enough credit and they consider themselves to be baby astrologers for so long. And it's like, no, you're, allowing yourself to also see that and get a reflection of how far you've come and just how much you know. Because even if you know just the basics, you can still really, used well and in integrity, really help people with astrology to feel a little less lost, to feel a little more validated, to understand that there's more. And that's what astrology can show you. It really can show you that path forward and deeper into yourself. So tip number 4, is apply everything you learn to your own lived experience. And what I mean by that is make astrology come to life. Don't just learn things and, put it aside. Actually use astrology for what it's meant for. It's meant to help you understand your deeper sense of self. It's meant to help you in your relationships. Oh my goodness, it's so helpful for that in understanding how you communicate, what you need, what your purpose in life is, different aspects of your life. When you're going through some bumps in the road, it helps you understand, why that is at a deeper soul, spiritual level, but also when that will end, when is the light, where's the light at the end of the tunnel, and actually having the ability to tune into that and feel into it and see what is coming up, how that transit is manifesting, is so powerful. And it also allows you to work with this more and more and really get a deeper understanding of it. So I recommend that starting out, you begin with your own lived experience, relating what you learned to your birth chart. That's really the key of where you want to begin, because no one knows you like you know you. You've been there for yourself, and you're always going to be on that journey with yourself. So allowing yourself to even look back to past dates once you start getting into transits, but really reflecting and contemplating and meditating on these different placements and the different ways that they show up for you in your life. And then you can go on to look at, okay, what about the people you know and love? What are their charts like? How is that compatible to you in some ways? How does that kind of repel in some sense too? And where might there be some room for greater understanding? So first learn your birth chart though, and then get into transits and all of that and synastry, and there's so much good stuff in astrology. Okay, number 5, the 5th tip for learning astrology, and then I'll share the bonus one since you've listened so long as a little reward for you. Okay, so number 5 is take an astrology course and really be mindful with which one you take. Now, I say this because of course, I have my program that I love, my baby spiritual astrology school. As I shared at the start, if you want to learn more about that, I'll put that in the show notes, but I run that twice a year. It's super in depth. So, shameless plug there. It is amazing. And just the level of confidence and growth and the transformation that happens within that, the ability to take wherever you're at now and really deeply know astrology from the inside out and not have to like Google things to understand how to read birth charts, transits, solar returns, progressions, all of that. It's incredible. So I really stand by that. If you're interested, you can also send me a message on Instagram with any questions. But I do want to say, any astrology course can help you in your journey to really fast track your growth. So when I started out, I have my astrology bookshelf behind me, some of my books, and I learned a lot from books. And I'm so grateful for all those teachers, all those authors I read from. And at the same time, learning from a course really helps you get there faster. So if you feel frustrated in the pace at which you are learning, that is an excellent way to bring it all together. And I like to think that there's really a powerful, there's something that happens when you are really allowing yourself to make that jump into taking a course, to start to believe in yourself, to understand with greater depth these topics of astrology, to feel really solid in the essentials, but also feeling into what kind of astrology are you interested in? So I teach spiritual astrology, evolutionary astrology. I'm very much into the karma behind things, the greater purpose of your life, because I deeply believe you are here for a purpose, you're here for a reason, and your astrology helps guide you in that journey. But there's other astrologers who are into medical astrology, who are into Hellenistic astrology, who are into, there's so many different types, right? And even the way in which their energy matches what it is that really resonates with you. So, I've had someone recently reach out and said they wish they would have taken spiritual astrology school because they took another program and they really liked that type of astrology, but that person's personality didn't necessarily match up with the way that they best learn. So even thinking about that and seeing, okay, what is this program like? Do you have the ability do you want it to be self-paced? Do you want to have the live component? Is there an ability to add on one-to-one so you can actually feel that you're working with that person at that level, one-to-one? I just feel like there's when you have any live experience with the astrologer on the other end, that teacher, it really helps to just feel that there's some energetic wisdom transfer there. I don't know how to put it into words, but you know what I mean, if you've experienced that. And so allowing yourself to see, okay, what kind of astrology are you drawn to, but also what is the best way that you learn? What does that look like for you? How can you fit that into your life, into your schedule? There's a lot of things to consider, and even the idea of just knowing that, yeah, you can learn it all on your own if you want to, you really can, but knowing that it's okay to be supported, allowing yourself to be supported, and to know that astrology is this ancient wisdom. And so there's so much that you can learn, that we can learn from each other. And you constantly, as an astrologer, I'm constantly reading. When I first started learning, I'd wake up at 5 a.m. every day before I went to this job that was not an aligned match for me, let's say. And I would wake up to learn and study astrology every single day at 5 o'clock, rain or shine, weekends, whatever. And it's really, even now I luckily can make my own schedule, so I don't always wake up that early, but I do allow myself to be in constant study with astrology and with myself, and seeing again how astrology, how I can take that even deeper. And so just something to consider. I still, as an astrologer, I love going back even to the basics. When someone tells me that they already know the planets, they don't need to relearn that, I'm like, I constantly love to go back to those. So another bonus tip for you there too is don't be afraid to go back to the basics, because the more deeply you know the basics, the more deeply you'll be able to get into the really good stuff later and be able to really blend it all together and wrap your hands around it. All right, so bonus number tip, bonus tip. So the bonus tip I have for you for staying till the end. My sixth tip or piece of advice for learning astrology for beginners or wherever you're at really is share astrology with only the open-minded. So share your interest, your passion for astrology for sure, but also be mindful of who you share it with. So just as I shared, who you learn astrology from is really important. The people in your life may not understand your love, your passion for astrology, and that's okay. But just be mindful that it's important to find people who do get that, because the more you can surround yourself and make those friendships, those connections, be in a community of people who are open to astrology and to spirituality and to their own journey, they're committed to their own sacred path. I mean, so beautiful. It's so massively important. And it really does allow you to understand that it's okay if other people don't get it. And the more that you are on this journey, the more you'll really sink into that. I know it can be really difficult. Trust me. I have stories that one day maybe I'll share, but I know it can be really hard when people in your life don't understand what it is that you know to be true, or make fun of you for that, or, you're afraid to share for fear of looking stupid or whatever that is. But the deeper I'm on this path, the more I realize that the way that, don't try to convince anyone, that is not your job. The way that you really can understand astrology deeper and understand yourself deeper is just being committed to it for yourself. And astrology is not, it's really important to know that it is both a science and an art form. It's really this thing that you know in your heart. And it can be hard to put that into words. And it's okay. You don't have to convince anyone. And it's okay if people don't get it, because everyone is allowed to have, you're not hurting anyone, ultimately, is astrology helping you? Is astrology guiding you in an empowering way? If it is, then beautiful, because the helpful aspect of astrology as that guide throughout your life, the thing that I notice is, that's what matters, really. Is it helping you? Beautiful. It doesn't have to be the thing. God speaks to us in many ways. God, the universe, whatever you term that, your higher self. There's a sense that everyone is spoken to in a different way. There's different truths for all of us. So if astrology is yours and you want to really find others who are in a like mind of that and share that to see where that goes, that's beautiful. And allowing yourself to know it's okay if others have their own thing, they have their own way of communing with something greater than themselves. So yeah, allowing yourself to choose astrology as your compass, if it is for this part of your journey, or seeing it where it goes, but not having to convince people, not having to feel like that's your role. Because honestly, the deeper that I've been on this journey, people around me are like, I'll have what she's having, how is she so happy? How is she, when you see the shift of someone, when they're really more and more deep in their own power, you feel that. So yeah, if the deeper you just allow yourself to be on your own path, what I'm trying to say is people will notice that, and then they'll get curious. So it might not be, you might have to be a bit more patient. That day may never come, but allowing yourself to know that it's okay if they don't get it. Of course, respect is a necessity, but just as I respect other people, or I'm like, okay, I don't believe that personally, but that's, getting more curious, being in that mindset of appreciating our differences, because life would be so boring if we were all the same. And that's what astrology is all about. You literally would see in their chart why they don't believe in astrology if they don't. So yeah, that's my little ramble bonus tip for you at the end. I hope you enjoyed that. But yeah, so those are my 6 astrology tips for you for learning astrology wherever you're at in your journey, just deepening that and allowing yourself to really see, okay, maybe one of these really resonated with you, or it's something you haven't tried. How can you deepen your journey in that way? And maybe start incorporating one of these that you haven't, or maybe you see, okay, there's room for you to grow or work on that in some sense. So yeah, that's all I have for you. This was so fun sharing my first video on YouTube as well. So if you are watching on YouTube, feel free to let me know in the comments which tip really resonated with you. Even other topics you'd like to hear about here that you'd like me to share more on. If you want me to share more on YouTube, feel free to let me know as well. Would totally love your encouragement there. But yeah, I'm so grateful you're here. If you would like to sign up for my Astro Mail for free, get my free Astrology Basics Guide, I'll also link that below. Or you can go to MaxineLuthia.com. Feel free to reach out to me on Instagram too. It's just, my username is @MaxineLuthia, MaxineLuzia. And yeah, if you, again, want to find out more how to learn with me, if you're interested in checking out Spiritual Astrology School, I run that twice a year. So once for the fall semester, and then once for the spring. So if you're interested, you can check that out. Ask me any questions, see if it's a good fit for you, feel into it. And yeah, thank you so much for learning astrology with me. Thank you for being here. And I'm sending you so much love, and hopefully you are allowing yourself to really deepen your astrology journey and seeing where it goes next.